Coming in on final and touching down for the end of my first day of an epic trip back to Florida. Now, I'd already planned ahead. I have some friends down there. I was going to stop in. I'd been there before and seen a shop that restores warbirds and stuff. Okay, here I am at Casa Grande. They put my airplane in for the night, which is very nice. Goshawk Unlimited. That's Dave and Lindsay Goss that run the business. What a great end to a great first day. Okay, next stop, somewhere either Deming, New Mexico, or possibly Las Cruces, we'll see. So here we got Lindsay setting the camera up there. Here I am leaving Casa Grande. Dave and Lindsay Goss had a great night. We went out to dinner. Taken off here and headed east, a little bit south first, down towards Tucson. I wasn't really still feeling comfortable with the airplane with the fuel consumption, so I was going to make a couple of short stops here and make sure that I knew exactly how much fuel I was burning. So I was still kind of playing it a little bit safe at this point. So I'm probably going to stop a little bit shorter of where I might have planned. The first thing I'm going to do is head south and pick up Interstate 10 down towards Tucson. That's pretty much the Casa Grande area there that I'm leaving. As you can see, there's the interstate there down by the Eloy Airport, heading southeast. Pretty much taking Interstate 10 down towards Tucson. You can see the interstate off to my right there. And this is an interesting historical site, going between two little mountains. There's one on my left as well. 1900 RPM, about 110 indicated. That is Picacho Peak. That is the site of the furthest west Civil War battle. There was some California Union soldiers that come out, and some Confederate soldiers were trying to take over some of the local territories. See I-10 behind me cruising along. That's the rest area there. It's a national park, and actually on the northwest side of the peak there, they reenact the battle every year. I think they got more. There wasn't a lot of people in it, maybe 20 people per side. But now down here, this is actually Penal Air Park, and it's a big boneyard for old airplanes, a lot of airliners and stuff. A little bit of a close-up there, and we came up with a couple of shots here just to show you what it looks like. Mostly airliners at this point, but that's where Constellation came out of here recently. So there we are, Penal Air Park. Still following I-10 down towards Tucson. Coming into Tucson here, kind of on the northwest side. And I've got to go 1900 RPM, 105 miles an hour, 3,600 feet. And I'm basically going to have to go around the north side of the Davis-Monthan Airport, which is another boneyard. So I'm going to have to leave the interstate there for a little bit, which goes on the south side of that, but it goes through the airspace of the Tucson International Airport. So here I am coming in on the northwest side of Tucson. As you can see, it is very populated, and there are not a lot of places to land if you had an engine problem. So I was kind of looking around, and I ultimately found a dry lake bed there off to my left, so I followed it. The airplane probably flipped, but at least I wouldn't hit anybody. So here I am headed towards Davis Monthan, and I've got to go around it. I've got to stay outside that center ring, but I can go below the outside ring there. So there's Davis Monthan. Like I said, I can go under the outside ring as long as I'm below 4,200 feet. And you can see it goes from the surface to 6,600 feet, the center ring. So I stay outside of that. It's pretty much 5 miles. So here I am heading off a little bit east of it. Off in the distance there is the Davis Monthan Boneyard. Here we got a couple of shots just showing you, what it looks like. This was a big boneyard after World War II, and actually just south of this is the Pima Air Museum. Been there a few times. Here I am coming out kind of the east side of Tucson. When I get on the other side of this mountain, off to my left there, I'm pretty much outside of it. There I'm picking up Interstate 10 again on the south of me. Gorgeous day. As a train headed the other way. Not sure who's going faster, but probably me because I got a tailwind at this point. Tucson way in the background. That's the end of Tucson back there. So here I am kind of following the interstate there on the south side. Interstate 10. Look at that, 126 mile an hour ground speed. So that's almost a 20 mile an hour tailwind. Now this little dry lake bed here is called the Wilcox Playa. And during World War II in 1944, a Martin Mariner had an engine problem and had to land on the lake bed. Check that out. They eventually put it up on the beaching gear and fixed it up and flew it out. Here I am past the playa, heading up north towards kind of Cochise County Airport. This was a cool little place here. I always remember this. I've flown this. I fly low over this little area here in different airports. So there I am heading up past the playa, Cochise County, kind of heading over to the east. And as you can see, I'm about to cross the Arizona-New Mexico state line there, and I'm going to stop in Lordsburg, New Mexico here and check my fuel. That's one of my first fuel stops. And, I got to tell you, it's different these days. You actually just need a credit card. Nobody works at these airports anymore. And anyway, it was just really weird. In the old days, you had people that would come out and they'd look at the plane, and there was a couple of helicopters also landed. So this is heading towards El Paso, still I-10 there on my left. And at some point, I'm south of Deming. Deming, New Mexico is on the other side of that hill over there. And I'm passing the Florida mountains here, if you can believe it or not. Going to cut off of the interstate a little bit, head towards El Paso, because there's kind of some cool things I want to show you. So there I am with Deming to the left, heading up towards El Paso up here. But in between there's some pretty cool things. And check out that ground speed, 130 miles an hour. There was a lot of lava activity here a while back, and you can kind of see these little lava hills that are left off to my right. There's a kind of an old extinct volcano cone right there. Way in the distance, those mountains on the other side of that's El Paso. There we go, some more volcanic activity there from a long time ago. Little volcanic mountains there. Always cut the corner here. I just think that's really cool. And I continue to look for dinosaurs, but I've yet to see one every time I pass by. Now this is pretty cool. Though on the left here, this is called the Kilbourne Hole. And it's basically kind of a lava flow thing. It's kind of sunk in. And there's another shot of it. And off to my right, I'm going between two of them. This is the Holt Hole. That's what they call it. So I kind of go between there, just checking that out. You kind of see where the lava is kind of flared up on the sides there. So basically, I'm heading in towards El Paso, and just south of that is Mexico and Ciudad Juarez. So this is El Paso off to my left, and following the Interstate 10 there. That's El Paso, pretty crowded, very close to Mexico. That is the border. That is the border wall. That's Ciudad Juarez to the south. It's El Paso to the north. And here's a couple of really cool border shots here, you know, where they have a wall, but they also have some fences and things like that, you know, for the Mexican-U.S. border. And I'm gonna stop in Fabens here, follow Interstate 10 down there and just get some fuel. Talking to ATC, going through El Paso, they said, "Oh, did you know that the Fabens Airport closes at 4 o'clock for a rocket launch?" I'm like, "What?" Anyway, so it was about 3:15. I got in and out of there before the local university was going to do some kind of rocket launch test or something. Heading east towards Van Horn is where I'm going to stop. There's a railroad track there. You see the railroad? You see the I-10 there is the double line, and the railroad track is the one that's got the little cross on it, and the little mountains I'm going through there. And this is actually, the train's not moving, it's just stopped. It's just there for storage, you know, so they must store them out in the desert there whenever they want to stop them for a second. So this is coming around the little mountains here. I'm heading to Van Horn, so there's the railroad tracks with the railroad. Van Horn to the right. Small little town before I get there, and as you can see, the sun's going down. Still following I-10. You can slowly see the shadows starting to lengthen, so it's getting time for me to stop. That's Van Horn in the distance. Getting a little closer, coming into the little flat area there. So that's Van Horn. And this is the Culbertson County Airport where I'm going to land for the night. And it's interesting, I learned later Jeff Bezos bought a 40 square mile ranch up there where he launches his Blue Origin space flight rockets and stuff. So interesting. So this is pretty much the end of my day as the sun's setting, got the airplane all packed up, and I am headed off to the El Capitan Hotel. Pretty cool historic hotel in there. That's the lobby. Checked in, had a nice dinner, had a couple of drinks, and end of a great second day. Okay, so here we are back at the Van Horn Airport. Had a little bit of breakfast. Sun's coming up. I'm about to put on my long winter underwear because it's going to be a little bit chilly. All I got to do is pack up the cover, pack my bags, get all ready, warm up the engine. Okay, it's 8:20. I'm about ready to jump in and hold the weather. Everything's fine. I'm headed east. Taking off on a bit of a northeast runway, and it seems like every place I land in Texas there's the potential of a rocket launch. Anyway, so lifting off here. Can turn a little bit south to the right there, pick up Interstate 10, and pretty much head east. So here we are, we got I-10 on the right. A lot of plains there, although at some point we're going to see the last of the mountains. It was rougher than a cob that morning. Pretty chilly too. Bit of a dry lake bed off to the left. I-10 to the right. This is going to be kind of the last bit of mountains I'm going to see. A little railroad heading up to the northeast off to my left. Now here's where the interstate splits. I-10 goes south, I-20 goes to the north towards Pecos, Texas, Midland, Dallas. Sometimes I usually go there, but this time I'm going to stay south, try and stay a little bit warm, and maybe go visit a friend by San Antonio. See, the sun's coming up. That's going to be the last bit of mountains, so I'm heading east down I-10. You can see I-20 behind me where it splits, going a little bit to the northeast. And this is I-10 heading towards pretty much Fort Stockton is going to be the next big airport. And there we are. That's Fort Stockton Airport to the north. Pretty much I'm over the town right now. See the airport just to the north of the interstate there, so I'm headed just south of the interstate, staying out of the traffic area. Most of the way I pretty much had a tailwind. I never really went below my indicated airspeed. Heading east there, and you can see there's a bunch of windmills on the map there, so check this out. That's what they grow in West Texas. And you can see they're a bit on a hill there. It's taking advantage of Bernoulli's effect there, you know, so the wind will go higher. And the next fuel stop's going to be Ozona, Texas. Here I am. I've had to fuel my own airplane. There was actually a guy and a kid inside, but they never even came out to look at the airplane. It's just a different world these days. Yeah, so I go on the airlines and everybody closes the windows. All I want to do is watch movies. And I want to look out the window and see what's down below me and look at the weather and the sky and the clouds and see if I can recognize where I'm at. And I remember that airport, and it flashes back to cool times. Anyway, like I said, it's just a different world. Now at some point here, and then you can kind of see pretty much the end of the mountains in the background. You're going to see a lot of flat plains of West Texas here, a bit of scrub and stuff. It's not as deserty, but you know, you've got some little, I guess they're like mesquite bushes or something. So cruising along the interstate there, you can see every once in a while you get a town on the interstate, and generally, you know, every other one might have an airport or something, so you've got options there. And if they have the little triangles or the squares sticking out of them, that means they've got fuel. If they don't, then they don't have any services. At some point, the interstate heads down south towards southeast towards San Antonio, and I tried to call Rod Lewis, friend of mine, big warbird collector, stop by his ranch and see him, get some fuel, but he was actually working in town, so it wasn't going to work out, so I just kept heading east, thinking about making a stop a little northeast of Austin. As you can see, we're picking up a little bit more scrub here and there. Eventually, the vegetation will turn into a little more foresty. You know, not so much deserty. And I'm going to stop in a little airport called Taylor, Texas. And that's Austin, Texas, down there to the lower left. There's my fuel stop. When I landed, I thought, man, this place looks familiar. Why does this place look familiar? Turned out it was where I got my auto gyro rating a couple of years ago with Dayton Dobbs there. And if you go on my YouTube channel, you can find a 3-part series, Kermit cams, of me getting my auto gyro rating. That was pretty cool. And it was interesting. I texted him with a picture of Taylor, and I got a response from him later. He saw me land and was taking off, and he said if he'd known it was me, he would have stayed. So, oh well. Okay, taking off out of Taylor, heading east. Still pretty much no interstate, but I picked up a river that I can follow, and it's kind of taking me east. And I'm going to end up kind of a little bit north of Houston is kind of where I'm headed. So that's the river behind me. As you can see, I like to fly low here and kind of take in the sights. And, you know, to me, I mean, you can fly high, maybe get a little bit more of a tailwind. Sometimes that's appropriate. But, you know, to me, this is what flying's all about, especially in this kind of a cool, you know, old vintage type airplane. A little bit of clouds, but overall my weather was awesome. So here I am. You see I've left the interstate, heading towards, probably flew over that Caldwell Airport, heading east, pretty much using the GPS. If I can pick up a railroad track or a river bed or something like that, I usually do. And you can see where the map changed right there. It's sometimes difficult to, you know, basically change maps in an open cockpit airplane and find out where you've got it laid out. This looked kind of interesting. I thought I'd just fly over and check it out. It was some kind of a development. Didn't know exactly what it was, but somebody was moving dirt for something. Again, a little bit more scrub building up, starting to get a little bit of some foresty trees there, you know, that have been cut out for certain things. Here I am following a little bit of interstate. I don't know if it's interstate, but it at least looks like a 4-lane road. And here I am coming into Cleveland, Texas, a little bit northeast of Houston. I thought this might be a nice place to land. Unfortunately, what happened was I landed there. You can see Houston down there to the south, and Cleveland, Texas up there with a circle around it. That's my stop. And I landed, I fueled up, everything was going great. Went into the terminal building to check out and see what kind of services they had. Nobody was working, okay? I called, I could get a hotel, I couldn't get a ride. There was nobody around I could get a ride from, okay? I thought I was gonna have to spend the night in the terminal. God, like in the old days, we used to just show up, they'd have a $400 clunker car, they'd give you the keys, and all you had to do is put some gas in it and bring it back the next morning. Man, it has just changed so much since I used to do cross countries. So here I am finishing up fueling, and I sat there and I'm like, what am I gonna do? I couldn't get a cab. The only cab I could get was like 30 miles out of Houston, Texas, you know? So anyway, I continued to work and figure out what I could do. And thank God, at the end of the day, somebody flew in an airplane. It was, you know, they were based there locally, and this kind gentleman gave me a ride to my hotel. And I finally got a room. Anyway, end of a great day 3. Kick back, walk over to a restaurant, had something to eat, and looking forward to the next day. So here I am the next morning with Greg, who was my ride to and from the hotel. Thank you, Greg. Inside the terminal there, they had this pretty cool poster making my last pit stop. I recognize one of those airplanes. And there I am headed out to day 4. Okay, so here I am setting up the camera. Unfortunately, by the time I'd get to my next stop, the battery was dead, so I didn't get to do a lot of filming. Still pretty chilly. I'm wearing my long johns. Taking off here out of Cleveland, Texas. Check out the shadow. Pretty good camera work by the pilot, that's all I'm saying. So here we are headed east, and I'm not going to have an interstate for a while, so I'm kind of like picking up, you're following the GPS, but picking up landmarks along the way as I can. We're starting to get into a little bit of the river delta area here, so crossing different rivers and getting a little bit more, you know, foliage and trees and stuff down below me. Again, another gorgeous day for Kermit's epic trip home. Picking up a little bit of a road there, pick up railroad tracks where I can. They were burning a couple little fields here and there and kind of flew by through this one next to a little town. You can see a bit of a railroad track there I was following. And the first fuel stop here is going to be St. Landry Parish, and this is in Louisiana. Pumped my own fuel, but I had a couple of interested people came out. That was pretty cool. Yeah, it was interesting. I was getting a lot of flashbacks from my old days. We used to fly aerobatic contests around the country, and we'd go around with 4 to 6 airplanes, and no one had a starter. Most of us didn't have radios, and every place we landed, we fueled, and then we had to start our airplanes by propping them. Man, it is just a different world these days. That's all I'm saying. Airspeed's up a little bit, almost 112 there, because I'm flying lower now, getting closer to sea level. The ground's getting lower below me. Here's a pretty big river, and at some point the foliage is going to change from forest to you know, to swamp. We're going to start seeing some swamp here pretty soon. Not sure what the name of this river was. There was a lot of little rivers that were kind of feeding into each other. There's a little bit of some farmland there. I'm not sure what they're growing, but somebody was burning fields. So we're coming up on Baton Rouge right here, Louisiana, and that river there, that is the mighty Mississippi River. Baton Rouge up to the north of me where the big international airport is, and the They're big football fans here. Louisiana State University is here. And out on the wingtip there is the Louisiana State University Stadium. Go Flying Tigers. And now I'm going to actually pick up Interstate 10 again here, just south there. So that's Interstate 10. So happy to have my runway below me in case I need it. That down there is Lake Pontchartrain, and on the other side of that giant lake is New Orleans, which is pretty close to where the Mississippi dumps out into the Gulf of Mexico. And that is an interstate that actually goes across the middle of Lake Pontchartrain down into New Orleans. So I'm cruising along heading east here. Again, you can see we're starting to get a little bit more foliage here. Great weather. Chilly. Passing a little airport here with Lake Pontchartrain in the background. And I'm going to make my next fuel stop at Pascagoula, Mississippi. And here we are passing the airport at Biloxi, that little blue dot. It's kind of off in the distance there. And now you can see we're really starting to get into some swampy stuff here coming into Pascagoula. Little winding rivers. Like a bit of a golf course down there, maybe. Community. This is getting pretty low. That's basically sea level right there. Following the interstate. Crossing this little section of pretty windy river swamp. That must be some fun fishing and stuff there. I imagine there's probably a few alligators down there. Wouldn't want to find out. And that is the Pascagoula Airport, where I'm going to stop for fuel. Second stop of the day. Usually 3 legs is all I could do. I was a control tower at this one. The blue airports have control towers. I try to avoid them if I can. Again, had to pump my gas. There was something funky with this pump system here. I had to get somebody to show me how to do it because I couldn't figure it out. It's been a long time since I've done this kind of flying. And everything has changed. So here I am passing some little airport east of Pascagoula. So this is Mobile, Alabama, and basically I'm just going to go south of Mobile, Alabama. Normally I take I-20 to miss this, but if you look off in the distance there, you can see a bit of water. That is Mobile Bay, and I have got to cross that, okay? That's the Mobile Airport at the top. I'm kind of following the interstate, but I'm going to cut south of the airspace there and cross that big bay. A bit of a, looks like a power plant or something. And here I am crossing Mobile Bay. That's the Mobile Airport up there off my left wingtip. And I made sure that if there was a boat out there, I was flying within gliding distance of it. That little airplane there is where I'm at, just north of my little track there. And on the other side here, I'm going to pick up Interstate 10 again, which is a bridge up to the north of me. Made it. So there I picked up Interstate 10 again and passing Pensacola, so we're into Florida. That's where the Naval Air Museum is. And we are going to spend the night here in Crestview, Florida. I've been here numerous times stopping on cross countries. Pretty nice little airport, and that's Crestview there. Used to be a Fairchild aircraft factory there. I think somebody actually pumped pumped my gas here with a truck. That was pretty cool. So here's my 3 legs for day 4. And thank God I got a ride to my hotel. Great end of a day to a great day 4. Okay, so last day, 5th day, headed home. This cute little kid came out. He was looking around the airplane, was very inquisitive, and so, answered a bunch of questions, showed him around. His name was Connor, and his dad actually works at the airport there for the airport fire department. So I got all the bags loaded, stowed the cover in the back, taxiing out here down the taxiway, kind of a north-south runway. I'm only doing 2 short legs here, so wasn't in a big hurry to get out. Looked like they were scrapping some airplanes there. Taxiing around, you see the sun's already up a little bit. And here we are leaving Crestview, heading down Interstate 10. First little airport there is Defuniak Springs, so you can see the interstate there. I've landed there once or twice in my old aerobatic days with little pit specials and stuff. Heading down the interstate there, which is the double line. Getting into some swampy territory. Interstate you can see in the forest there to the right. Everything to the south of me is pretty much Pensacola Naval Air Training, and that's all restricted space. Big lake off in the distance. Coming down the interstate. That's actually Lake Seminole, and there's a big river that comes out of it that heads down to the Gulf. That is the Chattahoochee River. So here I'm heading down the road. Now that big yellow town there, that's Tallahassee. That's the state capital of Florida. Going to go around that center ring there out of the airspace of the Tallahassee airport and heading down the, this is not an interstate. I've left I-10, but it's basically a double lane road there. And my first fuel stop here is going to be the Perry Folly Airport, kind of in the armpit of Florida. Coming in, 3 runways. Used to be a training base during the war. This I've been to a number of times. This used to be where Blakey Engine Service was, and if you remember, I did a video with Jeff Blakey. He's in got an engine shop in Texas. I was really, really cold, and I stopped, fueled my own plane. I got to tell you, it is very interesting. Heading out on my last leg home, I was a line boy when I was 18. I don't think that job exists anymore. Anyway, just saying. So here we are leaving Perry, headed south down a little road there. Getting pretty swampy. Flying down the west side of the road. Looking good. The weather was gorgeous most of my whole trip coming down. Coming up on the town of Cross City. Way off my wingtip there, you can't quite see it, but that's the Gulf of Mexico. Cross City Airport, landed there a few times. It's different cross countries. There I am heading down the road. But here's a big river coming up. That is the Swanee River. And that's where I am, and you can see that off to my west is the Gulf of Mexico. Now it's getting pretty swampy here. I pretty much left the roads. There's a big kind of a lake river going out to the Gulf of Mexico. Picking up lakes here and there. Off in the distance is the Inverness Airport up to my left. And here we are coming down Inverness Airport, pretty much just cutting off, taking a compass heading, pretty much following the GPS as well. A lot of swamp, heading down towards Orlampa, fantasy of flight. Unfortunately, I was not allowed to land at my own airport. We had rented the facility for a very, very special event. It'd be the third time we'd done this. It was a really big day. They were doing 3 days of filming there. So I had to land at a different airport. So here I am heading down to the Winter Haven Airport. Oh well. Heading down to Winter Haven. So passing Orlampa, going down a bunch of little lakes there we have, and the Winter Haven Airport's that little one that's got the little two cross runways.
Hey, weary traveler.
What's happening? Oh my
you ready to get the hell
God.
out of this thing?
Oh my God. My first leg, I froze my ass off.
did.
Oh my God. I left my jacket off because it was warm on the ground. Oh my God. I was fine on this one. Yeah, so I decided I couldn't make any money in the museum business, so I'm going to get into the ride business.
You're going to kill him.
You won't make any money there either.
Yeah, I know. Oh my God.
So Rob and Jill were kind enough to let me put my airplane in the hangar for the night. Okay, so I just landed in Winter Haven because I couldn't land a fantasy of flight. They're filming up there for a TV series that I can't talk about at this point. But actually, it's been 6 months since this flight, and I now can talk about it. Now, after this first shot here, all of these shots thereafter were filmed at Fantasy of Flight. Some places you might recognize, some places you might not. That's obviously in the machine shop. That's over from the museum hangar. So this is not quite the end, but almost the end. I'm close to home of a trip. I left Sedona, Arizona 5 days ago. It was the last 2 legs. I was in Crestview, Florida, and it was really clear, but when I started getting closer here, I got really, really bumpy. So anyway, it was a good trip. Got a cool new airplane, and eventually we'll see how it's going to fit in. Kermit came over now. Okay, so here I am leaving the next day out of the Winter Haven Airport. That's actually the Jack Brown seaplane training base there behind me to my right on the lake. They do a lot of training out of there, and all over the area here you'll see little yellow Piper Cubs on floats flying around doing training, landing at the different lakes. Before I ended up getting my own fuel on site at Fantasy of Flight, I used to have to come over to the Winter Haven Airport and gas up the airplanes. It's just a short flight over. It's only like 5 or 6 miles as the crow flies. A little bit of a map here. You can see the Brown seaplane base with the little anchor, and you can see the R there is Orlampa. That's Fantasy of Flight, and that designates a restricted airport. It's private, so you have to have prior permission to land there.
There he is.
So here I am coming in for my first pass. This will be fun. Not a big crowd to greet me, but A little bit of a welcome, the end of a epic trip. Oh my gosh, what a great memory this is going to be for me. Going in for another pass. The airplane's going to be completely uncovered and restored, new engine and everything. At some point we'll do it back in exact colors because the airplane has a special meaning for me. Coming into land, coming in over the lake there. Landing on my short runway. Seaplane base will be there to my right behind me at some point. Pretty cool looking airplane, huh?
Oh, it does have toe rings on it.
Yeah, it does.
And you can't get a bar on there though.
Yeah, I don't know if it.
Must be like
Oh,
a
you know,
special
actually,
bar.
it has a special one.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of spare parts he's going to ship back to me, and it includes a tow bar. So, yeah, this one,
Push it around.
it's kind of, yeah, in fact, I'll show you. There's a tail wheel lock unlock. Right now it's on steerable, but on the left side there's a little thing that puts, so I'll unlock it. But this thing you have to scavenge for 2 minutes, you know, so I'll have to sit there idle for 2 minutes to scavenge oil.
Was
But
it using a lot of oil at all, or was it?
it wasn't too bad. I was putting in a half a gallon, about a quart an hour.
Not too bad.
It wasn't too bad, but you know, it's only got 125 hours left on it,
Yeah.
and it's got to be done. So, you know, the airplane, it's never been recovered. It's 25 years old. It looks pretty darn good.
Prop looks brand new.
This is brand new.
Just had a problem.
Yeah,
The engine looks pretty clean too.
I know it. I mean, literally, only one time did I wipe off the landing gear with a little bit of oil, but that's coming out the exhaust. But it's got a really soft landing gear. I was going to try and 3-point it, but I was just coming in probably a little faster than I needed to be. This has got the short range tanks. They make the other one is a long range tanks, but Eric, the guy I bought the airplane from, says actually this one flies better. Something about disturbing the air over the top or something, but we'll see.
How many gallons does it take?
24 and a half a side, so 49 gallons. So it's got 3 hours of range, and the longest leg I did was 2 hours, and I think it was about 225 miles. But when I get, I'll get Jack to look at it. I want to retorque the prop hub, check the screen one more time. And, when I get it back, I'll give everybody a ride. How's that sound? Yeah, it's really, really cool, because I know a couple of you haven't been up in something cool like this. Yeah, so you see the tail wheel unlock on the left side there, Paul?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about the
How old's this fabric?
25 years old.
too bad? There's a spot on the wing tip there.
Yeah, but my God, it's...
Wow.
Yeah. Ken, this airplane has 7,000 hours on it, which means he's gone through like 5 engines.
Nobody's kicked a hole through the fabric?
No, it's, there's a little sheet metal here and there, a couple little cracked fairings, but we'll fix all that stuff. But man, she is a great old girl. All right.
Okay, so here we are pushing the airplane into its final new home. It's going to go back in there and meet a lot of its new friends. And I'm suspecting there's probably going to be a pretty big party going on there tonight, so we'll see.
Naked in Jamaica, naked in Jamaica. Bob Marley tune to a reggae beat. Sounds like Jamaica, neat and sweet with them beat.
All right, let me get a quick last shot.
Naked in Jamaica.